By sunrise, the first thing you notice in these English towns is not silence. It is texture. Wet cobblestones, bent timber, stone walls darkened by centuries of rain, windows so small they look less like decoration and more like survival. A modern resident may step outside with a phone in hand, but the street under their shoes was shaped for carts, horses, market stalls, and people who lived far closer to mud, smoke, animals, and bad smells than we can comfortably imagine today. This is not a story about people secretly living without showers in modern England. That would be false. The truth is stranger and more interesting. In a few old places, people live normal modern lives inside buildings that still force them to negotiate with the Middle Ages every single day. Their homes may have plumbing, heating, and clean clothes, but the walls breathe through lime plaster, the floors slope, the ceilings are low, the lanes are too narrow for today's traffic. Repairs cannot be rushed with cheap modern materials, and the memory of old hygiene, old food, old trades, and old routines still clings to the shape of daily life. The first place is Lavenham in Suffolk. At first glance, Lavenham looks almost unreal, as if someone built a fairy tale village and forgot to straighten the walls. But these crooked buildings are not a theme park. Many were raised when wool money made the town wealthy, and then, when that wealth faded, the houses were simply left standing. That decline accidentally saved the village. Instead of being replaced by cleaner, newer, straighter Georgian streets, the medieval timber frames remained. A person living in one of these houses today does not live like a peasant from the 1400s, but the house still behaves like an old body. It creaks in damp weather. It dislikes trapped moisture. It needs traditional repair. You cannot simply seal every gap and smother the walls in modern plastic paint. In old timber buildings, that can cause damage. So the medieval lifestyle that survives here is not dirt for the sake of dirt. It is maintenance, lime plaster, gentle cleaning, careful heating, opening windows, watching damp patches, learning that an old house must breathe. In the morning, a resident may walk past a building older than many countries' modern governments, then stop for bread, coffee, or groceries in a street that once served cloth merchants and market traders. The day is modern, but the rhythm is old. Walkable streets, small shops, faces you recognize, houses that make you slow down. Then there is Lacock in Wiltshire. Lacock is one of those villages where the past has not disappeared behind glass. People still live there. Doors open, curtains move. Cars are parked outside cottages that look like they belong in a medieval illustration. The place is famous because film crews love it, but the deeper reason is simple. It has kept an older street pattern and a strong historic character. Life in Lacock shows how medieval England survives through restrictions. A modern owner cannot treat an old cottage like a blank canvas. Windows, walls, roofs, signs, paint, and repairs may all be controlled because the village itself is part of the heritage. That can be frustrating. A new bathroom, a warmer room, a better kitchen, or a small extension may involve planning, paperwork, conservation advice, and extra cost. So how does that connect to medieval life? Through limitation. Modern life usually says, upgrade, replace, expand, brighten, smooth everything out. Lacock says, adapt yourself to what already exists. Live with uneven rooms, accept thick walls and awkward corners. Work around the building instead of forcing the building to obey you. In the Middle Ages, hygiene was not the simple horror story people imagine. People washed faces, hands, feet, and clothes when they could. Herbs, oils, combs, and soap existed, especially for people with money. But daily life was still full of smoke, sweat, mud, animals, open waste, and smells from cooking and trade. Lacock's lanes help you understand that world physically. The village is clean today, but the close buildings and narrow streets reveal how intense smells and dirt would have been when water, drainage, and waste systems were nothing like today. The third place is York, especially the Shambles. This street is one of the most famous medieval streets in England, and for good reason. The upper floors lean toward each other. The shop fronts sit close to the street. The lane is narrow, intimate, and slightly claustrophobic when busy. Today it is full of visitors, small businesses, food shops, and cameras. But its old identity was much harsher. The Shambles was once connected with butchers. Meat was displayed at the front. Work happened close to where people walked. The smell would have been powerful. Blood, animal remains, smoke, spoiled scraps, dirty water, all of that belonged to the working street. This is where the modern viewer must be careful. Today's Shambles is not filthy. It is cleaned, regulated, commercial, and tourist-heavy. But the architecture still explains why medieval towns were so sensory. Everything was close. Nothing was hidden far away. Work, food, waste, trade, and living space pressed together. A person working there today may unlock a shop early, arrange displays, switch on lights, and prepare for visitors. But the building around them still carries the old street's logic. The overhanging upper floors gave more room above a cramped lane. The shop fronts faced directly onto passing bodies. The place was designed for face-to-face trade, not online orders or supermarket aisles. From York, move south to Rye in East Sussex. Rye rises like an old citadel, with cobbled streets, weathered houses, and lanes that seem to twist away from the present. It was once tied to the sea and trade, and its old streets still carry that coastal hardness. The weather matters here. Wind, salt air, rain, and damp do not just decorate the buildings, they attack them. Daily life in Rye is a constant meeting between charm and inconvenience. Cobblestones look beautiful until you have to drag shopping over them. Old steps look cinematic until they are wet. Thick walls hold character, but they can also hold cold. A modern resident may own a car, but the town was not shaped around cars. Deliveries are awkward. Parking can be a negotiation. Tourists arrive for beauty, residents stay through the maintenance. This is where the medieval connection becomes practical. In older towns, cleaning was never just about looking neat. It was about survival. Mud came in from the street. Smoke blackened interiors. Food attracted pests. Damp damaged timber and cloth. Today, Rye is far cleaner, but the battle against moisture, salt, and grime continues in a modern form. People sweep, repaint, repair, ventilate, and protect buildings that still age like living things. The fifth place is Chipping Campden in the Cotswolds. Its high street has the confidence of a town that once mattered deeply. The honey-colored stone glows in the sun, and the old market hall still stands like a reminder that trade once gave these places their pulse. This was not medieval life as fantasy. It was buying, selling, gossiping, weighing goods, arguing prices, carrying baskets, and trying to make enough money to keep a household alive. People living in Chipping Campden today are connected to that past through the market town rhythm. The street is not only a route, it is a stage. You meet people there, you buy things there, you move through a layout created for a slower economy. The medieval style that survives is not about refusing deodorant or refusing showers. It is about community scale, walking rather than rushing, local trade rather than anonymous consumption, craft and repair rather than constant replacement. Old stone houses also demand discipline. They can be expensive to maintain. Their beauty is not effortless. Roofs need attention. Gutters matter. Damp must be controlled. Repairs may need the right materials and skilled workers. A careless modern repair can harm a historic building faster than age itself. So the residents of Chipping Campden are not living in the Middle Ages, but they are living under medieval consequences. The past still sends the bill. The final place is Dunster in Somerset. Dunster has the kind of historic street where the old wool trade feels close. Its yarn market stands as a physical memory of cloth, work, and weather. Imagine traders sheltering goods from rain, voices echoing under the roof, people arriving with cloth, yarn, animals, baskets, and news from surrounding villages. That was daily life, practical, public, exposed. Today, Dunster is polished for visitors, but it remains a lived-in village. People wake up in historic buildings, work in small businesses, deal with tourists, maintain old properties, and move through streets that were never designed for modern traffic. The medieval connection is strongest in the way the village handles time. Nothing feels disposable. A door may be repaired instead of replaced. A roof line is preserved. A wall is patched carefully. A shop front must respect the street around it. And this brings us back to the question of hygiene and dirt. Were medieval places dirty by modern standards? Yes, often. Towns could smell terrible. Waste systems were limited. Animals lived close to people. Streets became muddy. Work was physical. Clothing was washed less often than today. Deodorant did not exist in the modern sense. Showers as we know them were not part of ordinary life, but the idea that everyone simply accepted filth is too lazy. People cared about smell. They washed when water, fuel, time, and money allowed. They used cloths, basins, herbs, oils, combs, and soap. Cleanliness existed, but it was harder to achieve and easier to lose. That is what these 6 places reveal. Medieval life was not just castles and drama. It was damp socks, smoky rooms, crowded streets, repairing walls, carrying water, cleaning mud, preserving food, and trying to stay respectable in a world without modern convenience. Today's residents do not live that way fully, and we should not pretend they do, but they live close enough to the old world to feel its pressure. In Lavenham, the timber bends. In Lecoq, the village refuses to become ordinary. In York, the Shambles still squeezes bodies through a working medieval street. In Rye, cobbles and weather keep daily life physical. In Chipping Campden, the market town rhythm survives in stone. In Dunster, trade, cloth, and careful preservation still shape the village's identity. The medieval world did not vanish. It was cleaned, regulated, renovated, photographed, rented, listed, and sold. It gained Wi-Fi, plumbing, central heating, and tourist signs. But beneath all that, the old structure remains. And sometimes all it takes is a rainy morning on a narrow English street to understand how close the past still is. Not as a costume, not as a myth of dirt and disease, but as a set of walls, lanes, smells, materials, and habits that still quietly tell people how to live.